Are you a working actor who wants to work more on TV and film? Or a beginning actor who just wants to start getting paid for doing what you really love? Well, then you're in the right place. I'm Louis DiBianco, a successful working actor with 79 on-screen credits. If this is your first time here, make sure to click subscribe so that you don't miss a single video that can help you grow your talent and advance your acting career. And definitely click thumbs up if you enjoy this video because, well, YouTube loves that. And then they will share it with more people who will get the benefit of this content. Today I'm going to focus on something that may seem like an obvious topic, but it's far from obvious, because if it was obvious, then there'd be many, many more great actors instead of few great actors and a lot of, you know what I'm talking about. The topic is, what is a scene? Right? Seems obvious. You've all read scenes, you play them, you audition with them. What is a scene? And I'm talking about what is a scene from an actor's point of view. In this business, I have discovered, after working more than 40 years, that you need to have your own director in your head. You need to be able to translate directions that you're going to get from casting directors, from directors on set, that are not always in useful language for the actor, because they don't talk in terms of your process. If you're working correctly, they'll tell you something like pick up the pace or make this scene more angry or more sad. If you're not an experienced actor, that can lead you into really sloppy, general acting, mediocre acting. You don't want that. So you've got to be able to know what your process is and how to immediately translate anything that's given to you into something that you can make specific, clear, focused, and compelling. So, what is a scene? Let's begin with what a scene is not. A scene is not an argument, although arguments always happen in scenes. A scene is not a conversation, although real conversations happen in scenes. That's what dialogue is about. And a scene is not an emotional eruption, although lots of emotional eruptions happen in scenes, and they are definitely part of your repertoire. But if the scene is just about an emotional eruption, it's general, it's boring, and it definitely will not lead to more and better work. So, how should you think about a scene? A scene, we're going to talk now about a two-hander. You and one other character. A scene is a tug of war. Here's an image on the screen for that. Yeah, it's lighthearted, but here's what's important to notice. The tug of war has a lot of tension in it. Tension in it because both parties are struggling to win. To win what? Well, in that case, to win this simple competition. But for you, as an actor, your tug of war involves an action that is focused, that is purposeful, and that is driven by one strong, high-stakes need or want or desire. Of course, we're going to call that high-stakes need or want your intention. Here's what's important to note. That intention can't just be something that you want. I just want it. It can't be something that would just be nice to accomplish or have. It's got to be something that you must have, that essentially you can't live without. In other words, it has to have life and death stakes. That's right. You're playing that as if your life depends on it, because the life of your scene depends on it. Let's come back once again to the tug of war discussion. The tug of war is a great image to remember because as long as it's taking place, there is constant tension. The rope doesn't just, relax. Both parties are involved in a moment-to-moment give and take, and the tension is always high. When you think of it like that, then you are less likely to fall into the trap of playing, which a lot of amateurs do, one generalized feeling for an entire scene. Like, they look at the script and they say, well, this is a very angry scene. These two people are shouting at each other, so I'm going to show that I can shout well, and you may do that, but again, it's not engaging. But if it's a moment-to-moment shift in power between two people as they each struggle to accomplish a different intention, then each give and take involves a different beat. And for you, as a professional actor, each beat should involve a shift in your approach, a different tactic that you're going to use. You're going to use some other kind of action in order to get to your final goal of the final destination of winning your intention. When you play like that, your scene will have variety, will have different colors, and it will have that musical dramatic arc that an audience feels. They don't think about it, they feel it. And when they feel it, and it's always there, never lets up, not even in moments when you're not speaking, the tension is there, of course, on camera, because the camera loves those moments when your inner life is speaking. When an audience feels that, they remain compelled and engaged. And that's your job, to be compelling and engaging from the moment you're seen until you're off the screen. I'm going to do something a little different today. By the way, I don't memorize these video scripts. I have important talking points that I know I want to cover, but when I remember the talking point or see it in my notes, then it triggers my knowledge that comes from 40 years of performing and teaching. So today, I'm actually going to refer to some notes that I have here. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate to you exactly what I mean by this tug of war that is a scene. Remember, that's what dramatic action is about. Your job is to maintain conflict, suspense, curiosity, intense interest, moment to moment, as you change your tactics, working toward accomplishing your high-stakes goal or intention. So I am choosing from one of the great plays of the 20th century, theater plays. Yes, it has been filmed. Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. And there's a scene here right toward the end of the play between Willie Loman, the central character, and one of his sons, Biff Loman. And they have had a rift in their lives, unresolved issues, for decades. And they all come to a head in this scene. So I chose it because it is an emotional eruption. There's a lot of intense feeling, and the language can be misconstrued or just read on the surface as these two people, shouting at each other, and they're going to tear each other apart. That's on the surface. Your job, when you understand your focus, what you're fighting for, is beneath those lines. So I'm going to just read them without feeling, so that you get a sense of how they could be played, especially if they're played badly. Starts with Biff. Pop, I'm a dime a dozen, and so are you. Willie, I am not a dime a dozen. I am Willie Loman, and you are Biff Loman. Biff, I am not a leader of men, Willie, and neither are you. You were never anything but a hard-working drummer who landed in the ash can like all the rest of them. I'm $1 an hour, Willie. I tried 7 states and couldn't raise it. $1 an hour, do you hear me? Do you gather my meaning? I'm not bringing home any prizes anymore, and you're going to stop waiting for me to bring them home. Willie, you vengeful, spiteful mutt. Biff, Pop, I'm nothing. I'm nothing, Pop. Can't you understand that? There's no spite in it anymore. I'm just what I am, that's all. Willie, what are you doing? What are you doing? Turns to his wife and he says, why is he crying? Biff, will you let me go for Christ's sake? Will you take that phony dream and burn it before something happens? I'll go in the morning, put him to bed. Willie, isn't that remarkable? Biff, he likes me. His wife says, he loves you, Willie. His other son, Happy, says, always did, Pop. And Willie, oh, Biff, he cried. Cried for me. That boy is going to be magnificent. That is a very powerful scene, especially when you see it played full out by 2 actors at the top of their game. There's obviously a lot of intense feeling there. When a father calls his son a spiteful, vengeful mutt. When a son says to his father, you're a dime a dozen. You never amounted to anything. You see the trap? If you're reading the scene as, what emotion do I play? And maybe you're in a production and you're not that experienced, and a director says, well, just bring up the anger and the intensity there, and you do. But it's generalized. It's generalized. So, if you're playing Biff, what's really going on there? First, let's talk about the 3 W's of every scene that you perform. These 3 W's will give you your bearings. They will set your GPS so that you can define your intention strongly and clearly and get through that scene with confidence, finesse, and subtlety. In other words, give a great performance. The first W is who. Who are you in the scene? Who is the other person? And who is that other person to you? The relationship. The second W is what. The what defines the given circumstances of the scene, and it tells you what is literally happening in the scene. In other words, what's going on that the lines describe. In this case, there is a fight going on between a father and son. That's literal. And the final W is the most important. Why are you saying and doing these things in the scene? Because when you define that, you've defined your intention. You have found the life of the scene, the tug of war beneath the lines that will make that scene come alive with variety, richness, etc. So, let me tell you the given circumstances of that scene. It's just before the end of the play. Willie plans to kill himself. Why? He's desperate. He feels he's failed in life. And he wants to leave his family money from a life insurance policy. So he is planning to gas himself to death. And he has this rubber tube in his basement that he's eventually going to put in his mouth and inhale gas and from the gas furnace and die. Biff has found that. He's shocked, he's hurt, and he's appalled. So in this scene, on the surface, he's arguing and fighting and, even humiliating his father on the surface. But what he's really doing is fighting for his father's approval and acceptance of who they both are. Certainly his approval and acceptance of who he is, who Biff is, because he's never gotten that from his dad. And Willie is fighting for the respect of a son because he feels he's never been respected by him. So the scene is really about two people who love each other. How can that just be a shouting match? It can if it's played in an amateur way. So these are the different, if I look at it as this tug of war, moment to moment, in the first line, when Biff says, "Pop, I'm a dime a dozen and so are you," I'm going to call that beat confront. That's the action that Biff is playing, he's doing to accomplish his goal. And when Willie comes back with, that he's not a dime a dozen, that he's Willie Loman, he hasn't gotten it, Biff has to do something stronger. So I call the next beat his entire piece about, I'm $1 an hour, I never made it in 7 states, etc., etc. That's an actual attack. It's an attack to break through Willie's illusion and to really touch him and get to him. Once again, he hasn't achieved it. So there's the struggle, the tug of war is going on, and Willie says, "You're vengeful, you vengeful, spiteful mutt." And the next one, I call this beat reaching out to Dad. When he says, I'm nothing, Pop." So if you go from confront to attack to reaching out, each one has a different tone, a different feeling. You will play different colors. The scene will be truthful. You'll still be engaged in a pretty intense battle, but we'll start to see the real life beneath it, and your performance will have dimension to it. And then, I didn't put the stage direction here, but when he goes, "I'm just what I am, that's all," he actually breaks down and cries, and he embraces his father. And that's why Willie says, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he turns to his wife and goes, "Why is he crying?" And the next beat, even though there's an argument going on, I call it beg. Because Biff is just pleading with him. "Will you let me go, for Christ's sake? Will you take that phony dream and burn it before something happens, before you kill yourself? I want you to wake up, not because I despise you, not because I think you're crap, but because I love you very, very much." And Willie is touched by that. The scene changes so much there. Because after Biff says that he's going to bed, he's going to leave in the morning, Willie's dumbfounded. He goes, "Isn't that remarkable? My son cried for me. He just showed that he loves me." Isn't that powerful stuff? So we go from confront, if you're playing Biff, to attack, to reaching out, to begging, and then finally to resigning, if you like, and to leaving, walking away. Has he accomplished his intention? No. But that's not what's important. The process is important. He never gave up fighting for it. Well, he left. He left to go rest. His hope is that in the morning, he can reach his father when they're both more calm. I'm going to assume that because of who these characters are. So I hope that this analysis is helping you. Remember, your scene is a tug of war. At the beginning, I brought up a lighthearted, humorous image for it. Obviously, I gave you a pretty intense, not lighthearted scene. So what about this image? You see the tension there? It never lets up until the scene is over. And remember that you are fighting for a very high stakes, life and death goal, something that you want and need from the other person, from beginning to end. And you will have to use different adjustments, different tactics, different actions, which means different levels of emotion, different tones of voice, different colors to achieve your goal. And that there are three important W's that will ground you and focus you in the scene. Always define the who you are, who the other person is, and who that person is to you. The what, the given circumstances, and what you are literally doing in the scene, what's written in the dialogue, described. Remember that that's usually not what you are doing inside, which is your intention. And then the why. The why, which is defining your intention, which gives you clarity, focus, and a laser-driven purpose to get through the scene. Are you in love with acting? I am. Become in love with it. It will love you back. So, if you got some value from this, share it in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, absolutely do so now. By the way, I was tempted to extend this training even more, but I'm going to save that for another video coming up. See, there were lots of stage directions here that I didn't read to you. for a reason. When you're going through a scene, an amateur actor will try to play every stage direction that's there. And I'm telling you that many of them are traps that will blow you out of the water. When you navigate through this scene, you're walking in a minefield. I'll discuss those traps in a video soon. And until we meet again, oh, I forgot to tell you, in the description below, you will find a link to an online course that I've created called Self-Taping Mastery. I've completely over-delivered in it. I'm even offering another online course on live auditions called On-Camera Audition Mastery. I'm going to throw it in for free. It's a $200 course, throwing it in for free as a bonus. I'm putting the link here just for you to go there and discover what I'm actually offering. It's okay if you don't feel it's for you. I still will continue to deliver value to you. Just go there, find out what the offer is, and see if it resonates with you. And until the next video, remember to always feel it, say it, mean it, book it.